I pledge allegiance to Yahwah Almighty, who has blessed the Republic of the United States of America, and to that Republic for which those red, white, and blue stars and stripes stand, one nation, under our God Yahwah, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Listen to that woman. She's changed our Pledge of Allegiance. Well, know this. It's been changed before. I've just put it in its proper perspective. We have one, a great and powerful and mighty one, who gave each and every one of us breath. And he gave us a very special land to live in. And our land is represented with a banner. It's represented with the stars and stripes and the red, white, and blue. This represents our country. But who allowed us to dwell in this beautiful land of what is supposed to be the free? Our God. Who is our God? He's not a God called by many names. Oh no, that's not what the scriptures declare. So what do the scriptures declare? Well, I speak this to the woman, America, the woman, the Republic of the United States of America, to educate you further in what we think we know. We just thought we knew. Because who would think to question a King James Version? Or any other version as far as that goes that's written in the English. We've got the first commandment. And the only thing that you see, ladies, on that plaque that you have somewhere in your house, in your yard, wherever you put it, the first commandment you see is, you shall have none other gods before me. Well, who's the me? Have you ever looked that up? Well, he knows who I'm talking to. And maybe you think he's a pagan name. And this is what we need to know. This is what we need to be educated in. We need to look at the verse prior to Deuteronomy 5 and 7. We need to go to Deuteronomy 5 and 6. And your KJV uses an uppercase pronoun. Uppercase L, uppercase O, uppercase R, and uppercase D. And then you go to the complete Jewish Bible, and they use uppercase Adonai. Uppercase A, uppercase D, uppercase O, uppercase N, uppercase A, and uppercase I. The English versions have deceived every single one of us. And the Almighty, by His tender mercies, revealed to my husband and I a little over 34 years ago that His name has been removed from His Word and replaced with these uppercase pronouns. Therefore, Deuteronomy 5 and 6 of your KJV should read, I am Yahwah, not uppercase Lord. I am Yahwah your God. I am Yahwah your El, which brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. The complete Jewish Bible reads, I am, there's that uppercase Adonai. I am Yahweh, not uppercase Adonai. I am Yahweh your El, who brought you out of the land of Egypt where you lived as slaves. Then we get to what you see, ladies, as the first commandment on all your plaques. You shall have none other gods before me. Therefore, Deuteronomy 5 and 6 has established his name, the name of the only God that ever existed. The only God. He's not a God called by many names. Never. There's no scripture with this. He's a God of many attributes. Wonderful attributes. He's Counselor. He's Wonderful. He's the Mighty El. He's the Everlasting Father. He is El Shaddai. He is all of these wonderful attributes, yet he has only one name, and the word name is in the singular tense from cover to cover. So with this introduction being said, I want to move on to Psalm 33 and 12. From your KJV, it states, "Blessed is the nation whose God is," that uppercase Lord. No. It should read, "Blessed is the nation whose God is Yahwah, and the people whom he has chosen for his own inheritance." The Complete Jewish Bible made the same error in the English. It put in Adonai in uppercase letters, and it should have read Yahweh. Therefore, the Complete Jewish Bible should have read, "How blessed is the nation whose Elohim is Yahweh, the people he chose as his heritage." Wow. Now, we know, ladies, that we as a nation have been robbed of our president, who some claim that there is no office of the presidency since 1999. We do know that we have had foreign interference with our elections. We know that these foreign entities are Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was never part of the United States. It was created for a corporation, what we used to be. There was also another foreign entity, Vatican City. Vatican City is a foreign entity that is not part of Italy. Then we have the third foreign entity, London, England. And it's not part of England. And these three foreign entities have made the people of the United States of America, as well as other nations, their slaves for years, for decades, and we did not even know it because they changed our Constitution. And we just went right along with it. Now, with this, keep this in your back of your mind. This is up to you to search these kind of things for yourself. But I have a reason for saying this, because our Pledge of Allegiance is not to a piece of cloth. Our Pledge of Allegiance, our dedication is to the one God, Yahweh. That's who our allegiance belongs. And there are many who will not speak his name. Many. Because they believe with a sincere heart that they are violating the commandment that says you shall not take his name in vain. You shall not take his name for nothing. However, someone please explain to me that all throughout the first blood covenant, there are words that says to, the word say, mention, declare, proclaim, praise. All of these are articulation words using the fact that we are to speak his name. Is it any wonder that the enemy of our soul has robbed us spiritually? You think you've been robbed naturally. And they call it the big lie. The big lie. our phony election. But the biggest lie started when those who ruled the world removed his name, Yahwah, from his word and substituted his name for uppercase Adonai, uppercase Lord, and uppercase God. And the errors of Jehovah and Jesus. Whoa, I know that sounds terrible to you. And please understand, I question no one's experience, because the word tells me that unto every man, or for us women, is given the measure of faith. And this is from the beginning of time. This is written in Habakkuk, and again in Romans. So I question not your experience or your measure of faith, because the word would contradict me. However, what have we done with our measure of faith that created this biggest lie? I believe I know. We have entrusted our human body, our human brain, our ears and our eyes to listen to someone who looks like, oh, they're so kind and they're so good and they're loving and they're this and they're that. And we've trusted them to do our studying for us, when we all have been sorry and lazy and not studied for our own self. Well, it don't matter what you call him. It surely does, or he never would have created the first commandment and gave it to Moses on the mount. He wanted Israel to know. And even in the garden, they knew who he was. From Genesis all the way through to Revelation. They knew who their Elohim, their God, really was. So what I want to present to you women, and I speak to the Republic of the United States of America as a woman, because I am part of this nation. But if there are other nations that are tuning in and listening to this program, I encourage you to know what that verse in Psalm says. It says, blessed is the nation. That's your nation. That's my nation. It's not just Israel. Almighty Yahweh is not just the God of Israel. He's the one that has breathed breath into every human being that's ever lived. Now, that human being is given a free will to choose. And it's up to all of us to choose that which is righteous and holy, that which is real truth. So, again, Psalm 33 and 12, how blessed is the nation. This is not just speaking of Israel. No. How blessed is the nation whose God is Yahweh, the people he chose as his heritage. And know this, the Republic of the United States of America was never a Christian established nation. Whoa, listen to her. Yeah, don't listen to me. Do your own research. You know, we have all these people in the natural who are exposing all the evil that's going on under the ground and everywhere else. So I'm going to tell you the same way they tell us. Do your own research. I share with you the truth. But it's up to you to know for yourself. Because we have a God, Yahweh, that has given all of us breath. And even though in the first blood covenant, Yahweh called the people that attached themselves to Israel's God strangers, we are no more strangers. If so believe we that Great is the mystery of godliness, for God, Elohim, Yahwah, was manifest in flesh. Oh, whoa, listen to that. Okay, it's truth. Who is God? His name is Yahwah, and it never changed. And it was Yahwah Almighty that manifested himself in a robe of flesh. Ladies, I speak to you as moms, as the keeper of your household. And that word keep means to guard. And it's up to you to guard your own soul. And you are responsible for teaching your children, as well as your husband, but that's not my authority to teach men. It's up to the women who have been given charge or guard or keeper of their household to know what is right and holy, and to teach your children truth. Not just throw them to a television, not just throw them to a video game because you don't feel like dealing with it. You'd rather work a job, when your main job is to be keeper at home with all of the technology that we have. You could have a job at home and help support your family if this is what you felt like doing. I don't fault that. It's when the enemy gets the woman out of the home that the children are thrown to who knows what. And you might think you know your relatives, but you don't know what kind of perversion they're of. You have no idea. So I would like to parallel everything that I've just said to the story of Hezekiah, Manasseh, and Ammon. King Hezekiah, King Manasseh, as some people say, and the King Ammon. And I'm going to start in 2 Chronicles chapter 32. I will do this in several parts. And only you can know from the examples from Scripture what you should do as one who lives in this year 2021. We got a lot of things happening around the world. A lot of things. And where we stand is going to mean much. And who we worship and who we cry out to is going to mean much. All right, let's go to the Scripture. I have the complete Jewish Bible pulled up in front of me. I have the King James Version, and I also have the Hebrew. I'm going to stay with what we understand, the English. 2 Chronicles 32 and 10. Thus says Sennacherib, or some would just pronounce it Sennacherib. That's what it looks like in the English. He was the king of Assyria. Whereon do you trust that you abide in the siege in Jerusalem? So he's asking the question. This is what Sennacherib says. King of Ashur says, what gives you the confidence that you can endure a siege against Jerusalem? All right, we know that this Sennacherib, he was a king of Assyria, and he was challenging Israel. He was challenging Jerusalem because he had conquered so many other countries. He goes on to say, he says, has not Hezekiah deluded you? Hezekiah, or some say Hezekiah, was the king of Israel at that time. And he asked the question sarcastically. He said, has Hezekiah deluded you? I'm reading from the complete Jewish Bible. Isn't he condemning you to death by starvation and thirst when he says Yahwah? Now know this. Everywhere I see that uppercase Adonai, every place I see that uppercase Lord, I'm going to put Yahweh's name back where somebody removed it. Therefore, I say again in 2 Chronicles 32 and 11, hasn't Hezekiah deluded you? Isn't he condemning you to death by starvation and thirst when he says, Yahwah, our Elohim, will save us from the king of Assyria or Assyria? Isn't this the same Hezekiah who removed your God's high places and altars and ordered Yehudah and Jerusalem to worship before one altar and offer sacrifices only on it? Don't you realize, now he's really getting sarcastic. He says, don't you realize what I and my ancestors have done to all the peoples of other countries? Were the gods of these nations able to do anything to rescue their country from me? What are they doing? They're trying to instill fear into the people of Israel. Is this not what's trying to happen in the Republic of the United States of America? Fear-mongering? What does Yahweh's word say about fear? What does it say? Yahweh has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. Who has put fear in you, in me, or anyone? We cannot allow fear. We must clothe ourselves with great courage for what we are facing. And who gives courage? The Elohim, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And he had only one name, and it was Yahweh. So this wicked king of Assyria is making mockery of Hezekiah or Hezekiah. All right, and he goes on again in verse 32 and 14, says, who of all the gods of those nations that my ancestors completely destroyed was able to rescue his people from me? How then will your God rescue you from me? How proud, how boastful he was. Yet, he goes on to say, don't let Hezekiah mislead you or delude you this way. Don't believe him, for no God of any nation or kingdom has ever been able to rescue his people from me or my ancestors. How much less will your God rescue you from me? His envoys kept on speaking against Yahweh Elohim and against his servant Hezekiah, or King Hezekiah. He also wrote a letter insulting Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, and speaking against him. It said, just as the gods of the nations of the other countries could not rescue their people from me, likewise Hezekiah's God will not rescue his people from me. Wow. How boastful. The letter goes on to read, they were shouting loudly in the language of the Judeans to the people of Jerusalem who were on the wall in order to terrify them and make them fearful so that they could capture the city. Whoa. Let's parallel that to now. What is the enemy of your soul? What has he done to you? He has made you to trust in doctors and highly educated people. Oh, surely they can't be wrong. Surely not. What about the scientists? Some of them might be right. Some of the doctors might be right. The ones that's telling the truth are being annihilated and shut up. And they, who's the they? Those who worship darkness. They are trying to silence any truth that comes over the airways or in social media, anywhere. This is what the enemy of our soul is doing. It's not the big lie. It's the biggest lie, introducing false deities, pagan deities, erroneous errors in your KJV. Who do you think King James was? He was part of that foreign entity of London who didn't even belong to the country of England. Yes, and that term Christian, Christ, all of that goes back to the other foreign entity of Vatican City. They were not called Christians at Antioch. No, ma'am, they were not. Christian comes from Latin Greek, not the Hebrew. Again, our 13 colonies were established by Israeli men. And if you want to search this out, you can find very clearly William Bradford was the second governor for the state of Massachusetts. And this man, he established a law, and these laws were throughout the 13 colonies, that anyone practicing Christmas or having a tree within their house would be punishable by law. And we see that Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through probably 9, 10, and 11 or more, talks about the stalk of the tree. That stalk, that tree cut down in the woods, and they deck it with silver and gold. All this was pagan worship. And it was against the law to practice pagan worship. And you can see in the oldest cemetery within the state of Massachusetts the tombstone of William Bradford, and his tombstone reads in the Hebrew that Yahweh is good. Yud-He-Waw-He Tov. Yahweh is good. Simple. We were not established as a Christian nation. They were never called Christians at Antioch. This was another insert. We were called followers of Messiah. Meshik Kiyim. Followers of Mashiach. That's what believers were called. They were never called Christians. Again, Christ, Christos, Christian, all that comes from Latin Greek. Our God gave his word to Israel first. Yes, we know that he's the God of every human living, if so, we choose that he is our God. This is something you need to search out for yourself. They were not called Christians at Antioch. Never. So, back to the word. Here he is, outside the city, terrifying the people on the wall, and he spake against the Elohim, Yahweh Almighty of Jerusalem, in the same way as about the gods of the other peoples of the earth, which are merely human artifacts. KJV reads in 32:19, and they spake, talking about this wicked king of Assyria, he spake against the Elohim of Jerusalem as against the gods of the people of the earth, which were the works of human hands, which were the work of the hands of man. Wow. There's a lot to be gleaned from here. And this ends part 1. If it be y'all's will, I'm going to take up with part 2, starting with 2 Chronicles 32 and 20, in the next program. Until next time, shalom.